All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be talking today. It is Thursday, last day before the free-for-all this week, and looking forward to that as well. Hope you'll join me today. It is later than usual. Obviously, I started it just after 3 rather than my normal start time of noon. As I had mentioned yesterday, I was going to be lobbying on Capitol Hill. Today, the focus is or was on Ukraine and Russia, and specifically what appears to have been an incredibly misguided decision by Biden to authorize Ukraine to send long-range missiles, ATACMS, they're called ATACMS. Don't ask me what that stands for. I don't know, something assault, something or other. ATACMS deep into Russia, and this has certainly led to retaliatory strikes by Russia. It's not going to change the basic course of this war, which has resulted in Ukraine losing, suffering population depletion, losing somewhere around 15 to 20%, I believe, of his land right now is under Russian control. But I guess as a parting shot, maybe Joe Biden wanted to do favors to Anthony Blinken's clients. I really don't know. We're going to see how those weapons work, was the thinking, I guess, the thought process. So I was down on the Hill talking to Congress members' staffs. Didn't get to talk to any Congress members. Well, apparently some of our team did run into a few Congress members and spoke to them about why we need them to pressure Biden right now to withdraw the authority that he had provided to Ukraine to send those weapons, those missiles, those strikes deep into Russian territory. And Russia views that as an act of war by the United States, and understandably so. Ukraine is our proxy, and we've done everything we can to keep that war going. We provoked it. Now, certainly, Russia bears blame too, no question about it, but we provoked them into it. And then when Ukraine and Russia were at least getting close to a deal and had reached some agreements, some pretty important agreements when it came to where Russia and Ukraine borders would be and who would occupy what and where there would be a DMZ. That was a time when Harris Biden deployed their English messenger boy, Boris Johnson, to stop the deal, to tell Zelensky there ain't going to be no deal. And that is what he did, and that is what happened, and that's why we are where we are. I did hear Scott Ritter speak. I actually did speak to him briefly. I asked him a question. I'll play that video for you. We are going to focus on that murder, though, in the streets of New York early yesterday morning. Actually, it was before my show. I saw the footage, or at least I saw the story before I went live, but I just didn't have the time to really focus on it. And I probably won't really today either. Maybe tomorrow, the free-for-all, where we revisit stories from the week. I'll get into it. If you want to join me, 240-242-5646. You see me leaning over, just looking to see if my ringer is ringing, and it is. I tried earlier to get it to ring, and it didn't work. But after a few clicks, it seems to get itself cleared. So there's your thumbnail one more time. For-profit healthcare villain and victim. Oh, and I see I've got my little timer. Let me turn that off. So yeah, Brian Thompson, both, right? Obviously, being the CEO of one of the largest for-profit health insurers in the country, you're going to be a villain. You don't get to occupy that position unless you direct your staff to find every single loophole, every single possible corner that you can cut to keep from providing services, to keep from providing life-saving, necessary medical services to your clients, to the people who actually pay your salary through their premiums. And this is just the business model. The business model is we take your money and then we try to come up with ways to deny your claims. According to Ken Klippenstein, I think his name is, he has a pretty well-shared meme out there. United Healthcare was the worst offender of all, or perhaps from their shareholders' perspective and from Thompson's perspective, the best. They denied a higher percentage of healthcare claims, apparently, than any other during Thompson's tenure over the past 4 or 5 years. I think he took office in 21, so a little over 3 years. It was early 21, I believe. So we're going to go through the reaction. And it's fascinating to me. I have a little bit of clips I'll show you, but let me just go to Ukraine first. Ukraine on my mind. I was downtown. No, Gaza first. Obviously, that is the worst place on earth right now because of the Israeli-American genocide practice on the Palestinian people. And here is your caption from Al Jazeera, and it's pretty grim. It's gruesome. Israel hitting Gaza hospital water tanks. Obviously, this is just designed to maximize the pain, maximize the suffering that they're inflicting. For no purpose. There's certainly no military purpose. They're in complete control of the entire region. They can move in at any time and anywhere. They're just attacking areas that they control. They killed 48 Palestinians. That caption there is below, and I highlighted children incinerated. An Israeli attack on safe zone in Gaza. That's who Harris Biden, that's what they're responsible for. That's why I just would not vote for her to carry on a second Harris Biden term under any circumstances. I talked to one of the activists about this. The focus of this program, the theme over and over and over is we need an alternative. We cannot keep electing Republicrats. They are destroying our nation's soul. They are destroying our planet. The Republicrats are destroying everything that's decent, good, beautiful that we still have. And we must move in a different direction. Gaza is the tip of the spear, but that is really reflective of the entire globe and the way the Republicrats as Spocks, as the representatives of the billionaire class, the ownership class, view the world. It is indeed an oyster to be ruthlessly chopped, cut open, and then consumed. And that's exactly where we are right now. It's tragic. We have to figure out another option. I have said that my goal here is to come up with alternatives to the Republicrats, that we have to come up with a solution. I did talk to one of the two ladies, and quick shout out, I don't know that they're watching. They probably don't even know about this live stream because my brilliant marketing brain did not urge them to watch, listen, view, or even to know about it. That's just how good I am at promoting my channel. People who have very similar views, share my sensibilities, I don't even mention this to them. I guess that probably explains a lot. In any event, I did talk to them. I talked to one of them in particular. I said, hey, who do you vote for? What are your thoughts on this? Because we're trying to come up with alternatives. I'm trying to come up with, what do you think? And the response was, well, I voted for Jill Stein. I could not vote for Kamala. This was a woman who, she was of a certain age. She told me that. She said, for older people, and she wasn't that old, but, I guess she considered herself to be, I don't know. She said it was very, very tough. Everyone I know voted for Kamala, and they got on my case. They said, you have to vote for her. How can you not vote for her? And when I would bring up Gaza, she said, they would respond, yes, but what about abortion? And she said, and I couldn't understand that. I said, you mean? She said, yeah, abortion's important. Reproductive rights are important, but let's put them on a scale. What's more important, genocide or reproductive rights? And, and then we both agreed that Harris really, what was she going to do anyway? There's no real reason to view her as some kind of an ally of women on reproductive rights whatsoever. It's not like she was good on any issue. You see how bad the Democrats are in the murder of Brian Thompson and the reaction to it, the reaction on social media to it. So I'll go there first. I do have a video. I don't know. It's not the greatest quality. So we'll play that towards the end of the program with Scott Ritter. And I don't know if I'll be able to, I'll see if I can make it for the full hour. It will certainly help if you call. Because I didn't get as much, I didn't have as much prep time today. I had to go down to the Hill, as I mentioned, and then I spent a lot of time there, more than I usually do. Usually I'm only there for 2 hours. Today I was a little over 3, from about 10:30 till about 1:30, right? So I was only given about 45 minutes after that. By the time I got home to prepare. I did some preparation, of course, beforehand. But usually I would give myself at least an extra hour more than I got. But I really wanted to hear Scott Ritter. I thought it was worth it. So there you have it. The reaction, it's quite extraordinary, really, because if you read the media, right, when I say that you read the corporate media, the establishment media, the New York Times, it's very matter of fact, but sympathetic. This 50-year-old man died. He's shot. You can watch the videos there. By the way, to give some shout out also to Glenn Greenwald, who did a real good coverage of this same event. And it'll overlap. What I'm going to talk about will overlap with his. I listened to him on my way back from the Hill lobbying, but I had basically already mapped out in my mind what I was going to talk about with respect to this slaying of the healthcare executive. But Greenwald basically did what I was thinking I would do, pretty much, similar mindset, and he did a real good job with it. So you may get more if you watch him than me. I'm not sure about that. I don't know. I don't want to say, but I thought Glenn did a good job, and I'll probably repeat some of what he had to say. So here, this is from Gizmodo. I don't have the New York Times article. I didn't give you the clip from it, the announcement, but basically it's matter of fact. They lay it out. There's some, it's written in a way that I think you would engender normally some sympathy for a 50-year-old man, still clearly middle-aged, very extraordinarily successful, in quotes, if you define success by climbing the corporate tree, by making many, many millions of dollars. And my son told me that Scott Thompson's annual salary was $10 million, and that's before stock options and bonuses and everything else. That, again, that is blood money. There's no other way to look at it. The insurance company is a coin clipper. They are a middle person. They stand between you and your doctor. It's a complete scam. It's a horrible, horrible system. And, it's easy to bash, right? It's very, very easy for me. I could easily say that Scott Thompson is a ghoul and a monster. And I asked that question, is he a ghoul or top-notch executive or both? It's easy to say because of the way he made his living. But he's a cog. In the end, he's just an extraordinarily well-paid cog in the wheel of for-profit healthcare. Now, of course, he benefits from this. While most of us are suffering, while the country is paying outrageously high percentage of our gross domestic product to insure some of us and to ensure that all of us have healthcare anxiety, because virtually everyone, with very few exceptions, at the very, very top of the income and wealth ladder, virtually everyone has some healthcare anxiety. We know that there's a shot. No matter, I won't say no matter how rich you are, but even if you're a millionaire, you can be in a situation where you come down with cancer, you come down with some long-lasting, debilitating illness, it can drain you dry. That's just a simple fact. This is a horrific system. And when a person, a man like Thompson, who's profiting at such an extraordinarily high level, so far beyond the wildest dreams of just about anybody, $10 million frigging dollars a year. That's what he takes. Well, that's what his salary is. Probably takes home more than that when you factor everything in. So people aren't going to be empathetic. They aren't going to feel bad for him. They're going to hate him. They do hate him. There's so much class envy. There's so much anger, and it's so understandable. People don't like being taken advantage of. They don't like being exploited. And the fact that you need health insurance, now we actually need it. We are forced to buy it. And it was a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress that pushed through Obamacare, and that has resulted in continuing extraordinary healthcare injustice. And not one word from Kamala. Not one expression from Harris during the campaign that we need to do something different when it comes to healthcare. I didn't listen to everything she said, but I sure as heck don't remember ever reading her saying anything about healthcare. I guess she talked a little bit about bringing the cost of some drugs down. She did do that. Okay. People still are going bankrupt because they get sick. Even if they have private health care insurance, some people still go bankrupt. People are denied care even though they have insurance. And there was nothing from Kamala about how we're going to do something about it. So corporate media laments the death of this man. Most Americans celebrated it. Or at least most who weighed in, who commented. Here, from that Gizmodo article, these are the emoji responses. Over 10,000 laugh emojis. Over 10,000 laugh emojis. 1.6K tear, 1.3K care. Over 10K laugh. Americans are happy that somebody who has taken so much off the table, who has put so much in his pocket, was murdered. They're happy about that. That's where we are as a society. And you can decry the sociopathy that this must clearly reflect, or you can say this is what happens when you live in a soulless, dystopian cockistocracy, where you live in rule by the bad, rule by the few, rule by the rich. People are going to take pleasure, joy, their schadenfreude at the prospect of one of those elites taking it on the chin. They're really happy about it, and who can blame them? I certainly don't. Not in the least. Can't say, how do I feel about it? I don't give a crap. I'm not sorry he's dead. Can't say I'm particularly happy about it personally. Will it change anything? I think that was one of Glenn Greenwald's points. It's not. Nobody's saying to themselves, gee, maybe, or maybe they are. Maybe the CEO of Anthem Healthcare will now be a little bit more, careful before rejecting claims. Maybe they won't use that software, that artificial intelligence software that they rely on to deny claims. Apparently, the healthcare industry, the for-profit health insurance companies, at least led by United Healthcare in any event, they routinely, and I know they all do this, they routinely overrule doctors who say, no, we need to provide this service. This is essential. This patient has to have this procedure done. And routinely, these insurance companies will say, no, we're not going to pay for it. Have you tried this? What about that? They often delay. Wendell Potter talked about this. They delay and delay in hopes that the patient will die. And then they won't have to provide, oh, they're dead. Well, I guess they're not going to get that surgery after all. I guess you don't have to continue that expensive chemo treatments anymore because they're dead. And, the doctor might say, well, they're dead because you did not authorize those treatments. I've talked about this before. If you're a billionaire or you're like super rich, if let's say you're the Clintons, okay? So they're not billionaires, but they're centimillionaires. Let's say you're the Obamas. I don't know if they're quite at the $100 million class. They might be. They're in the 60 plus million apparently last time, and the market's way up since the last time I checked. So for all we know, they're, well over 100 million. Let's say you're in that rarefied air. Are you really happy? I mean, I get it. It feels really good. You have so much more than everybody else, right? I mean, this is a huge, look, we're all into comparisons. Everyone is. Constantly. Am I taller or shorter than he is? Am I prettier than she is? Am I making more money than they are? Right? That's what people do. We do that. I do that. Usually lose when it comes to making more money than that person. When I had a dog, I was like, I want my dog to be the faster dog, right? To be the smarter dog. I lost that one too. My dog wasn't that smart. But I still loved her, of course, but, like, hey, come on, do me, go run, figure out where the little bone is or whatever that I hid in front of you. Can you, little tricks like that. That's what we do. That's what people do. But when you have a system, so we're all going to be looking at the other person. Do they have more? But we're also empathetic. I think most of us are. I am. We may want to be a little better off than other people, but we don't want other people to be hungry. We don't want other people, most of us, to be getting bombed. But some don't really give a crap. Some profit from that. And that's the society we live in now. So I say to you, if you're the Clintons or you're the Obamas or you're the Bidens or the Harrises or the Trumps, and maybe Trump's a little bit of a different story because he really does seem to be, well, I don't know. Is he more of a sociopath than Hillary? I don't know. He did show real apparent empathy for the Ukrainians and the Russians being killed. He did say, I want people not to die. If you're any of those people, I get it. You're happy because you have more than everybody else, or most, except for maybe like Elon Musk or something, and then you're not happy about that. But are you happy knowing that tens of millions of people, maybe 100+ million people would take joy in your being shot? Maybe they went, Obama's pretty popular. He'd probably, if you're president, you're in a bit of a different place. But if you're elite, you're just super rich, you made your money by offshoring a factory or destroying a company, hollowing it out, or by denying people needed medical treatment. Are you happy knowing that you're reviled, you're hated? Are you happy knowing that because of you, when you go to work, you see homeless people on the street? Amazon unhoused a lot of people. Barack Obama unhoused people because he bailed out the big banks, not homeowners. So you may not even care about their lives, but then your environment is less pleasant and you're in danger personally. The peasants are uprising. The peasants are revolting. And that's what we saw, probably. I mean, we don't really know. Maybe the gunman in Manhattan, maybe he was, it was clearly targeted, right? I mean, he went after this guy, Thompson. He was deliberately trying to see this guy fall. He wanted to put him down, and he did. But maybe it wasn't, as many have speculated, because he was, the spouse of somebody who was denied health care and who died. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. Somebody that he loved may have, not received the treatment they needed because it was denied by this company, that Thompson worked for. Maybe. We don't know. Maybe he just looked funny. Maybe this guy was a barista and Thompson looked at him funny, or made a crack or something he didn't like. We don't know. It could be anything. But what the reaction of the American people is on social media, the reaction is, we're glad he's dead. Because we all recognize his money, his wealth was beaten out of people, was taken as a blood money. So if you're somebody with power and money, you can make a change in society, then maybe you should think to yourself, gee, this isn't really the best world for me. Even for me, even though I have more than just about everyone else, I'm kind of at risk. People, it's not great. So the reaction, sorry, but my insurance and Medicaid don't cover thoughts and prayers. And judging by the public reaction, and this is something I really thought, the second comment here, I didn't highlight it because I was rushing to get this thing on the air, but judging by the public reaction, I think the bigger story should be why this doesn't happen more often. Read another comment. And that's basically was sort of my sentiment. I remember talking to a friend of mine, this may have been 10, 12, 15, I don't remember how long ago. May have been when I was even in law school. I don't think it was when I was in law school. That would have been, when am I 6? I'll be 62. Can you believe it? 62. I think I look good. I still have some brown, mostly more and more gray, but some. Anyway, I'll be 62 in March. Maybe it was 40, 38, 39 years ago when I was in law school. When I was at Georgetown Law, the murder rate in the nation's capital was very, very high. It's always been one of the more dangerous cities, but it was particularly bad in the late 80s and early 90s. And I remember talking to somebody who was saying, God, it's just dangerous out there. Can't believe how many people are killed. And I said, I'm surprised there aren't more people killed. When you look at how much money, and this was a lot less, there was a lot less inequality, a lot less injustice when I had this conversation. Maybe it was in like the I'm going to guess early to mid 90s, because that was when crime was especially high in DC, and I think it makes sense. So I just said, if you look at how rich some people are and the cars they drive and right through downtown and through areas where there's lots of poor people, and there's so many guns, I'm surprised there aren't more killings, more slayings, more deaths. And I think murder rates have gone down since then, quite a significant drop, and that's because of great police work, and also I think because we're spied on. I mean, it's everything you do now is caught on camera. So you kill somebody, you shoot some, this guy seems to have gotten away with it maybe so far, but police are going to catch you pretty much. So that may be part of the reason the crime rates are down. I really don't know. Also, they say we're older now. There are fewer young kids, which is without question true, because we've seen a significant decline in the birth rate, although there are more immigrants coming in legally and without documentation. They tend not to be criminally active, but often the children immigrants are. So they could be driving crime to a degree. But again, murder rates are down. I am somewhat surprised, maybe up recently, but down from their heights. I am somewhat surprised, to be honest with you, that it truly doesn't happen more often. But I would say, look, if you're rich, if you're elite, if you're affluent, you want to live, your things are going to be better for you. They'll always be better. No one, as far as I know, is talking about confiscatory taxes. People say to me, oh, you talk about confiscatory taxes. And I'd say, yeah, you know, I believe in a 90+% top marginal tax rate. So yeah, you start making over $1 million, $2 million, whatever. We can debate it. I don't have a hard number in mind. But yeah, you start making in the 7 figures or more. I would say above a certain level, everything should be taxed at 90, 92, 93, maybe 95. You want to call that confiscatory? I won't argue with you. But what about that first $1 million? That's not going to all be taken away from you, even under my extraordinarily progressive tax system. Even under FDR, when we had the highest top marginal tax rate in this nation's history, I believe in 1935, 1936, it was 94%. One man paid that. One family, that was John D. Rockefeller, paid that because his income was so high. Last I checked, Rockefeller family ain't hurting. So no one's talking confiscatory taxes. But let's greatly reduce wealth and income inequality. We can eliminate poverty. We actually really can. Let's do that. And even the billionaires will be happier. Only way that's going to happen, always talk about this, the only way that happens, folks, is if we come up with an alternative. The Democratic Party will not lead us to the promised land. That ain't happening. United Healthcare insures 49 plus million Americans, $281 billion in revenue. It is using, according to at least a lawsuit, which I believe has got some very legitimate evidence behind the claim, it uses this artificial intelligence tool I referenced earlier to override doctors who say, we need to provide this treatment, we need to provide this service. It's medically necessary, and it's effective. So who can blame anyone for hating on company or its CEO, the face of the company, who, by the way, was pretty faceless. Nobody even knew who he was, and that's actually important. He wasn't some sort of a swashbuckling captain of industry like an Elon Musk or a Mark Cuban. He was just a kind of a faceless family guy, kind of symbolizing, in my view, emblematic of the banality of evil. A guy who, just went about his daily business, but his daily business was denying treatment. His daily business was coming up with new and creative ways to avoid spending healthcare premiums on healthcare. And nothing symbolizes this better, I think, than the second paragraph I've got on your screen there. There were videos on Instagram making the fact that the conference, he was in New York for the, shareholders conference, started exactly when it was supposed to, which was 8 a.m. A bare 75 minutes after the CEO, the most important person, right? If you have a shareholders conference, who is the most important person at that conference? Without any question, of course, it's the CEO. They're explaining to the board and any shareholders who choose to attend how the company's doing, how the performance, what our projections are for next year and 5 years, what we're looking down the road, trying to get everyone to buy into the, his master plan. That's why you have these conferences. And nobody cared, right? He was shot at 8. They started at 9. Nobody even knew he wasn't there. Because these are just machines. Even the company itself, it's a well-oiled machine that's got everything but a heart. So you get rid of this guy, people don't even know the difference half the time, and they'll replace him with somebody who'll do just as good or bad a job, depending on where you sit, probably. Don't we want something better? Even if you're a billionaire, don't you want something better? I can't believe you don't. I see Ari in the chat. Hey, Ari, good to see you there. Not sure what you're referring to with a big stomach. I'll let it go. This is a guy, here's a picture. This is why people are happy that the CEO is killed. This man here was at college at Penn State. I believe it was Penn State. He was insured through the university's healthcare program there. And usually colleges make these available to their students at very low prices because college kids are young. They're generally healthy, although maybe less so because of obesity and you get problems like drinking and stuff. But, you know, young people are healthy. Very low death rate. Very low rate of contraction of deadly diseases. But this man got very sick when he was in college. And the United Healthcare Corporation did its utmost. In fact, did not just do its utmost to stop covering him. They did. They just stopped covering him. They behind closed doors, they laughed about his condition. They, I guess it's like these macabre jokes, right? It's black humor. I read this book about Auschwitz. What was it? By the guy who, Martin Amis, right? There was a movie. Guess it won some Academy Awards. It was actually pretty good. I wrongly panned it before I saw it. It'll teach me not to criticize the movie before I see it. Zone of Interest is what it was called. Because that's what the Nazis called the Auschwitz camps. The zones of interest or zone of interest. People there, the camp guards, the commandants, the people who worked for the Krupps and Farben corporations that took advantage of the cheap labor to the extent they could. The corporations, the giant German integrated companies, which I believe are still both around. Krupps certainly is. I think Farben is too. I'm not sure about that. They, they can say, "Hey, we tried to stop it. We tried to save Jewish lives," which was true because they wanted to use them as slaves. So they were pushing the Haas, the commandant, don't kill all of them. Leave some for us. Leave the healthy ones. Leave the strong ones. I guess they get credit for that. The people who worked at those camps, they would make jokes. They would crack wise. And so do the health insurance companies when they're denying treatment to people who are dying if they don't get who might or will die. It's a real laugh riot. That's, by the way, that lawsuit's how we know about the artificial intelligence, because of subpoenaed records and depositions and the like. All right, 240-242-5646. Got a little bit more to go. Let's see, 342. So may not quite fill out the hour. I've got this video here. I want to play it. Not all of it, but this is Scott Ritter. So Scott Ritter, of course, made his name back during the first Gulf. Was it the first or second? It must have been the second, yeah. Because he was in Iraq looking for weapons of mass destruction, and he said, hey, they aren't there. We've looked everywhere. They're not there. This is BS. Right? That's how Scott Ritter really became, and he was working for the UN. He had a long history. He was a Marine. And, I've heard him a lot. I wonder whether, it says 91, overseeing the disarmament. There we go. And he became, after or during and after the Gulf War, he oversaw the disarmament of the first Gulf War, and then before the second, oversaw the disarmament of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq from 91 to 98. And then he resigned in protest. He resigned because there's nothing here. There's no more weapons. They're all gone. That was his conclusion. And he has really since become a preeminent voice for peace, for disarmament by the U.S., to get us out of foreign entanglements, to end American empire. He used to be pro-Israel, Zionist. Now he has come out strongly against the genocide, and he uses that word. I'm not sure if I have it on the clip. I have, maybe, where he says that. Apparently, yeah, he's convicted sex offender. I'm not sure what happened to that. You know, you read about that stuff, right? And I'm not saying he didn't. You know, it's gross, right? I mean, online, I guess he was online trolling for young people. I don't really know the whole story. But the problem I have with this is so often those who take on the deep state. And I know that sort of sounds a conspiratorial, right? The deep state, but it's true. The CIA, the spies, you know, the intersection of the weapons manufacturers and their people, you know, working and trying to and succeeding in influencing Congress to do their bidding. You go after them, they're going to find something on you. They're going to go after you. They're going to get you. And they did get him. So, full disclosure. So yeah, he criticized, he said there's no real weapons, right? No weapons of mass destruction in Iraq before the war, and said this is BS. And he was right. He was 100% right. Now his biggest fear, he was very clear about this, his terrible fear is war with Russia, with thermonuclear war. Because Biden authorized the long range, the ATACMS. I think that's how you say it, ATACMS, right? It's supposed to be like ATACMS. Because Biden authorized those ATACMS, long range weapons sent into Ukraine. And Russia has said this is an act of war by the United States. They're sending your missiles, you furnished them, you supplied them, you're providing Ukraine with the intelligence to shoot those weapons into our nation. That's an act of war by the United States. You don't get to use the fig leaf of your proxy. And they're right, just like what we're doing in Gaza, just like what Israel is doing in Gaza is really the United States in Gaza. By the way, don't forget, click like, click subscribe. Let me see, I'll get the video up for you, or the link, the little GIF, right? But you click bottom right. Don't forget, join Halitics on Facebook. It's really a great place. I love it. It's awesome. I love how much ferment there is. All right, here's Scott Ritter. Let's play this for you. Excuse me, Scott, real quick. Thank you so much. You talked about... Actually, that's not Scott. That's me. So here's my question for Ritter. I should have probably started a little earlier, but I'll play it, and then we'll see if you can understand and hear it, what he has to say. Inertia due to slavish devotion to rulemaking. What about due to corruption? So I'll rephrase it. Ritter said one of his biggest fears is that Congress will not tell Biden, no, stop. You cannot send these missiles into Russia. It's an act of war. Only Congress can declare war. And we're not declaring war in Russia. And we don't want those weapons sent in to kill Russians, because it's only going to make a bad situation much, much worse. Americans voted to de-escalate in Russia, against Russia. That's what part of the reason Trump won. Americans are sick of war. And Ritter said, I'm afraid that Congress, I hear this too often, we don't have time, we have to follow procedure, we only have a couple of weeks before the holiday. And so that was his rationale for saying, I'm not sure we're going to get, for saying that, that was their rationale, Congress's rationale for telling him they might not be able to stop Biden. So I asked him about that. And I specifically said, what about corruption? Not so much this invocation of orderly procedure. We have to follow the rules. but that they just are corrupt. They're bought and paid for by the weapons manufacturers who want the U.S. to buy the missiles or to send them to Ukraine and force Ukraine to buy them, and they want to test them out. What about that? So let's hear what he has to say, and we may replay part of this.
This is about stopping a nuclear war. I know that I will have to pay penance to my wife by being away from home so long, but it's worth it, and she agrees it's worth it. So I would meet with Senator Markey. I would meet with anybody who responsibly wants to sit down and talk about this issue.
We met with Samuel Luna.
Scott,
we met with
excuse me, Scott, real quick. Thank you so much. You talked about legislative inertia due to slavish devotion to rulemaking. What about due to corruption? That's maybe our bigger concern, and it was, you just alluded to it, the weapons manufacturers, the missile manufacturers wanting to test out their weapons and get paid.
Look, it's a problem. We just had a very... We met with Margaret Taylor Greene. First of all, I have to say this. I'm somebody who never met her before, and my impressions of her were totally driven by the media. And I was expecting something far different than what we met. She is intelligent, she is knowledgeable, she's articulate, and I was just deeply impressed with her. She's going to be sitting in the subcommittee and oversight.
All right, I'm going to stop it there for a second, just so you understand. I think you can hear it. I boosted it as hot as I could. He is saying that he spoke to Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican from Georgia who has been often reviled by Democrats, mocked by Democrats. He's saying that she is on it. She gets how bad the corruption is and how corruption does drive foreign policy and drive us into war. So he recognizes my concern and agrees with it. Yes, we can't count on Congress. We can't count on the Democrats to rein in Biden because they're bought and paid for by the defense industry. People like Ro Khanna actually own stock in some defense companies. People like Jamie Raskin, who go to conferences sponsored by, I guess, Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. These people are not, they don't have clean hands. And so Ritter's saying, but, you know, we've got Marjorie Taylor Greene who's going to try to ride herd on these people. I hope that's true. You know, I'm not necessarily a big fan of Taylor Greene, but to be fair, you know, a lot of these Republicans are so bad on economic justice issues. They're such, you know, they cleave to this bogus libertarianism, which basically just is you're on your own. But she has been a strong advocate in for peace. And that's very, very, very important. And in this world, in this environment where we live now, maybe it's even more important than being for Medicare for all, than being for higher taxes on the wealthy. Not sure. Ritter seems to think so.
And she said that's the issue she's addressing. So that's, I think that issue is in good hands. Because if I hadn't met her and somebody told me that, I would have been, Taylor Greene, she's very smart, she's this, she's that. After meeting her, I'm like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is the person to do this because she is smart, she is articulate, she is knowledgeable, and more importantly, she has empathy. And the reason why I think this so important. At the end of the Second World War, the United States military did a study on what made the Nazis evil. What made these people do what they did? Because it seemed like normal human beings. They played dogs, they played kids, they laughed, they cried, but then they committed evil. And the answer was...
Sorry, you saw the camera move. I was only with my right hand the whole time, very steadily, but I had to switch hands because it was my hand and arm were trying to hurt, so I had to switch to my left. So you saw the jitter there.
A lack of empathy. And so I've learned to judge people by the amount of empathy they have. And Marjorie Taylor Greene exudes empathy, and that every aspect of this meeting was an empathetic person who cares about humanity and human beings. So I think we're good hands.
All right, so I'll stop it there because then Medea starts talking and they got into another issue. But obviously there's real legitimate concern that the defense contractors will exude or will exert influence to stop peace, to prevent peace. It's very, very frightening. We don't live in a democracy. I hope Ritter's correct that Taylor Greene will be pitbull on this issue. I'm a little less optimistic than he is. I would also note that he is a bit of an alarmist. I'm not always 100% confident in what he's telling me. You always have to look at sources. You always have to see what's their track record. I don't believe Scott Ritter is compromised. I don't believe that he has a hidden agenda. I do believe that he is prone to exaggerate. But his current concern that our authorization to Ukraine, that specifically the Harris-Biden authorization to Ukraine to use the ATACMS, the long-range missiles, against Russia, could very well lead to a nuclear holocaust. And, you know, who's to say he's wrong? He knows a hell of a lot more than I do. He's got a hell of a lot more experience than I do, and probably than just about anyone else we know does either. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to him, to meet with him, to ask him a question. It was really pretty cool, to be perfectly honest with you. So want to leave it at that. I'm going to go. I don't have anything else at this moment. If you want to join me to talk about any of the issues of the day, then I urge you to call tomorrow, noon to 1. That will be Halitics, the free-for-all, the Friday free-for-all, of course. And you can also reach out anytime on Halitics Facebook. It's a great group. It really is. It's a lot of fun to be part of. That'll do it for me. You can always subscribe if you haven't yet, just by clicking that link on the video that you're watching right now, bottom right, blue and white. And I hope you'll do that if you haven't yet. Enjoy the rest of the day.